welcome back to Access Anime. My name is Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough review of Magi episode 11. And if you remember from last episode, we see Chasm as well as a few of his followers bug out. They're no longer with the Fog Troop, they've gone missing. Just putting that out there. Moving on past that, we're introduced to a new character by the name of Judel. Now, Judel is a Magi. Just thought I'd put that out there. Now, we also find out he's from the Ku Empire, and he's a priest for the Ku Empire. Now, he's not there on business, so he was just there to see Sinbad in general, and try to get Sinbad to join his side, or at least him in general. Now, that doesn't end up working out, but he is introduced to Aladdin, who also is a Magi. Now, it looks like they're about to shake hands, but Judel takes a cheap shot at Aladdin and punches him. Didn't see that coming. I really didn't. No. Now, in the following scenes, we do see Judel versus Aladdin, or should I say, Judel versus Hugo. It's an interesting fight, that's all I can say, and I loved watching it. It got really intense, and we definitely see Judel's cocky side, because he thinks he can't be touched. He's like he's an untouchable Magi. Now, obviously, Hugo proves him wrong and beats the crap out of him and defeats him. And again, that was last episode, and this is a new episode, so let's dive right in. And again, I'll hold my final thoughts on my rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned, but let's dive right in. Now, we open up this episode exactly where we left off. We see Hugo beating the crap out of Judel. Now, Judel is actually defeated, and it looks like he's half dead. He's not moving, and he's been bruised heavily. And we see, apparently, Hugo losing it. His power has changed to pink, and he's killing Judel. Now he is killing Judel. That's what we're seeing. And it's amazing in my opinion. Now again, Hugo in general, he's acting on his own. And he's not taking any orders from Aladdin. So, I don't know where he's getting all this extra magic from. Moving on past that, we find out some new characters have been introduced. And they're on what appears to be a flying carpet. And they save Judel. That's right, they save Judel. Now, that was where we opened up at. Moving on past that, again, we see Judel being saved by all these people on a flying carpet. Now, we find out one of these people that are on these flying carpet is being introduced as a princess from the Ku Empire. And she's telling one of her subordinates by the names of Kai Kuban to heal Judel. So now we see this guy called Kai actually healing Judel, even though he looks like he's dead. So Judel appears to be dead, but he's being brought back apparently. Moving on past that, we find out the princess is not happy with what she's seen and all these people, I guess, in general. So she orders her subordinates to technically kill all the citizens in general. Now we do find out she has a dajin, which is a metal vessel in general, and she takes out Hugo. So we see this princess take out Hugo. She has an amazing power, by the way, and now we see Hugo in general. He's gone. He's been defeated. Just like that, you know, I was like, wow. That's all I can say. I mean, I thought I was going to see more of a build-up, but, you know, last episode was definitely worth watching. This fight was kind of short in my opinion, so kind of drawbacks there. But moving on past that, we do see Aladdin. We're taken to a different scene, and all I can say is he's pissed. He is pissed. I mean, Hugo is gone. He's been defeated, and he's not taking this very easily. So Aladdin puts his serious face on. That's right, his serious face on, and he just goes straight at the princess and attacks her. Now we are taken to a different scene where we see the princess, and like I told you, she told her subordinates to attack the citizens. Now we're introduced to each one of her subordinates that are attacking all the citizens. One of them's called Enshin, the other one's called Enta, and the last one's called Enji. I believe that's how you pronounce all three of their names. At least I got one out of the three. And again, she tells her subordinates to kill all the citizens while she's fighting Aladdin in general. Now again, we are taken to a different scene where it's Aladdin versus the princess, and I thought this was definitely an interesting fight to begin with, because this princess, she can't be touched. She's transforming herself. Apparently, she was going to transform her body into the great demon Vienna, or Vena, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and just as she was about to transform, Sinbad steps in, grabs her arm, and stops her from transforming. I'm like, what? I didn't know he could do this. I really didn't. I mean, we saw him versus Alibaba, and he took him out pretty quick, but to take out a princess with that kind of power definitely says something about your character, as well as what kind of powers you have. I mean, he did defeat 7 different dungeons, and he has 7 different dajins. Well, had, past tense. But I'm just putting that out there. So he does stop the princess from transforming. Now, apparently, Sinbad knows the princess, and the princess knows Sinbad, and she respects him. She's not taking orders from him, but she respects him, and she tells all of her subordinates to retreat, to come back, and they're going to convene at a different location. And she's listening to Sinbad because Sinbad tells her to stand down, and she listens. And again, she respects him, just putting that out there. And again, the princess bugs out and takes her subordinates with her. And we find out Hugo, who has been defeated and is no longer, he went back into the flute, his star has vanished. I'm just putting that out there. That's something I don't know anything about on why it vanished. So hopefully we'll get more clarity in the next episode. But moving on past that, we are taken to a scene with Aladdin. And we find out Aladdin has stopped breathing, and he's weak, he's passed out. And of course this is like after the whole fight versus the princess is done and over with. And this is later on in the night. Now we do find out, Alibaba's kind of pissed that he couldn't really do anything and that he was useless. And that's where we're taken to the scene where we see Alibaba passed out and he can't breathe. Now, apparently his flute, which is where Hugo usually rests, is really, really bright. It's like a gold brightness. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really bright. And we do find out that Aladdin in general has used too much of his Magio. So he's using too much of his real magic within him to, heal Hugo in general, because Hugo has taken a beating. He thinks Hugo might be dead or something, but that's really not the case. He's just weak right now. But moving on past that, we do find out Sinbad notices that the flute that Hugo usually stays in is missing its star. That's right, Hugo's star has vanished from the flute. And I have no idea when and if it's going to return. Just putting that out there. Now moving on to the next scene, we find out the fog troop comes out of nowhere, and they're informing Alibaba that the army is now here, or at least the representatives from the army are here. And we find out General, I think his name is Barkak. General Barkak is now there. We don't know why. Why is the Bulbad general there? We really don't know. But we do find out that Sabamid, which is the deputy king, is also with him. And we find out that's the deputy king, he is actually the one that has been leaking information to the fog troop because he's disgusted with his brother in general, who is the current Bulbad king. So in general, he really hates his brother on what has been happening since he's been the ruler, and he doesn't like what's been happening. Now, of course, we are taken to a different scene with the general called Burkak, and he's trying to explain everything, since right now the deputy king is not looking really good. In fact, he looks like he's going to pass out. So we do see the General Burkak actually describing and explaining what's really been happening. And he also goes along the lines of describing how the abnormalities that occurred, these abnormalities that have been occurring actually occurred right after the previous king was struck with this illness that he had. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know how he got the illness or if it was part of the abnormalities, but I guess that kind of makes sense. Moving on past that, we do find out, we're taken to like a brief little flashback per se, and we see the banker being introduced to Abamid, which, if you remember correctly, Abamid is the current Bulbad king. Now, again, he's being introduced to the banker. Now, again, the banker is introducing something called a fawn. Now, if you don't know what a fawn is, it's the paper currency from the Ku Empire. Now, I definitely thought I have to bring this up as well, because this is definitely important. Now, in order to borrow this paper currency, which is called a fawn, it requires a payment of interest. And if you don't know what that really means, let me explain. Now, basically, you have to borrow more to pay this debit. So the more paper money you use, the more you have to borrow to pay off your debit. So I thought, okay, this kind of makes sense on where the banker comes in and why, Bulbad is, their current economy is shot to hell. Now, moving on past that, the end result of everything that's been happening with the banker and the current economy of the Bulbad isn't looking good in my opinion. In fact, we find out the ocean boundary rights as well as the land rights and the trade rights are now held, they're collateral. They're being held as collateral. So that's why they weren't able to do anything with their country, and why they can't literally listen to Sinbad in general when he's requesting to open up the ports. So they don't own any of their rights right now. It's all held as collateral to the Ku Empire. So I was like, damn, that kind of sucks. I'm sorry, that kind of sucks in my opinion. Now, okay, that actually leads up to, now I thought this was kind of disgusting when I heard this, but now that all their rights are gone, technically, their ocean boundary rights, their land rights, and their trade rights, what's next? What's going to be held next as collateral? Now that we find out, apparently the current king of Bulbad is now aiming to take away the human rights of his citizens as collateral. And if you don't know what that means, oh, seriously, you sitting down for this? Because I had to sit down when I heard this. Slave production. That means the current Bulbad king wants to upgrade slave production. That means every single person, one of his citizens, is now going to be a slave. You know, since they're being born every single day, kids are being born, now they're being sold into slavery as collateral because of the paper money situation which has been in circulation. So that's why the deputy king has been leaking information to the Fog Troop. I mean, heck, I probably would have done the same thing. I mean, that is disgusting. And we are taking to a different scene with Morgana. Now, if you remember correctly, Morgana used to be a slave, so this does not taste good in her mouth at all. In fact, she approaches Alibaba and says, "You have to do something. This cannot stand as it is. You have to do something." In fact, even the deputy king is talking directly to Alibaba saying, "You have to do something." And again, that's where the episode ends. Moving on to final thoughts. Well, first of all, is Alibaba actually going to step up and do something? I mean, we end this episode with him about to say something. I mean, is he going to jump in and take out his, the current Bulbad leader? We don't know. I hope to God he does. Now, moving on past that, if you remember correctly, the princess from the Ku Empire that we got to see fight Aladdin for like a few minutes, I'm wondering if we're going to see her in the next episode either talk with Sinbad, or we get a little more clarity on how she knows Sinbad and why she was so fluttered when he was talking to her and grabbed her. We don't know. Just putting that out there. And I'll put one more final thought. Are we going to see Yugo's, it looks like his star kind of come back to the flute? I mean, why did it vanish? Is it because Hugo was defeated and he is weak now, weakened by the last attack? Or is he just not there anymore? Is he completely dead? Now, I believe he's not dead, he's just recharging. He needs a certain amount of time, but I'm just putting that out there. And again, that ends it for my final thoughts. As per my rating, I'm feeling a good, I want to say 4 out of 5. In fact, I'm going to say 4 out of 5. I should say 3.5 out of 5 because we got ripped off. We didn't get to see a lot of fighting at all throughout this episode. It was all cut up, and that kind of sucks, but I'm going to go with a solid 4 out of 5 only because we got information. Now we know why Bulbad's economy is shot to hell. This definitely makes sense, and now we know who's been leaking information to the Fog Troop. So the information was definitely there. Emotion, drama, not so much. We do see a little bit from Morgana because she hates this whole slave situation that she knows from Bulbad that's now happening, but that it really wasn't there. It was just information. The information for this episode was there. So definitely I have to give this a 4 out of 5. And again, that ends it for my rating. And that ends it for my walkthrough and review of Magi episode 11. But definitely comment down below, let me know. Thumbs up, thumbs down, and definitely subscribe. Check me out on Twitter and follow me if you like. But definitely let me know what you thought of this episode, and let me know what you thought of the next episode that's going to be coming up. But again, guys, that ends it for now, and I have to go. I have one more walkthrough and review to do today, so definitely stay tuned for that. But guys, I gotta hit the bricks, I gotta go, and before I go, I gotta say it, and I always say it. You can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.